Commander Elias Kale stood at the edge of the observation deck, his eyes scanning the endless black of space. Stars stretched like silver threads across the void, but Elias' attention was not on their beauty. He was thinking about the mission, the Council's warnings, and the impossible odds stacked against him. Humanity had reached the edge of the Zorath Nebula, a dangerous and mostly unexplored region of space. Rumors whispered about the Drakkar Empire, an alien civilization feared throughout the galaxy for its brutality and advanced technology. Humans had never faced anything like them before. Most of the Council wanted to avoid conflict, to let the Drakkar Empire remain a distant threat. But Elias did not share their caution. He had seen too much suffering, and he could not ignore a plea for help, even if it came from a star system beyond human reach. The distress signal had arrived earlier that day, faint and garbled but unmistakable. It came from a place called the Veil Fortress, a heavily guarded installation at the edge of Drakkar space. The signal was simple. "Help! Queen Seraphine, captured." Elias had read the message several times, letting it sink in. A queen had been taken prisoner by aliens whose reputation alone made most humans tremble. Yet the words did not fill him with fear, they filled him with resolve. He turned from the viewport and walked down the narrow corridor toward the briefing room. His team was already gathered there, sitting in tense silence. Each of them was chosen for their skill, intelligence, and courage, but even the most hardened soldiers could feel the weight of what was to come. "Listen carefully," Elias said, his voice calm but firm. "We are not walking into a normal mission. The Drakkar Fortress is more than a prison. It is a maze, a trap, and a weapon all in one. Their technology can block communication, suppress energy signatures, and even alter the behavior of their captives. If we fail, the Queen is lost forever, and we may not even get out alive." Humanity had never faced a challenge like this without risk. "We will succeed," he continued, "not because we are stronger, but because we are human. We adapt, we think, we improvise, and we do not give up." His words were simple, but they carried weight. They reminded his team why humans had survived countless impossible situations, why they had colonized worlds thought uninhabitable, and why they had always found a way to fight against the odds. The crew nodded. Each of them knew the stakes. There was Lieutenant Mara Jins, the ship's engineer, who could repair anything with scraps and spare parts. There was Sergeant Rawl, a soldier who had faced pirates, mercenaries, and alien beasts without flinching. And there was Lyra, a communications specialist who could intercept and decode transmissions that seemed impossible to read. Together, they were small in number, but Elias trusted them completely. Their ship, the Starlance, was compact but fast, designed for stealth and agility rather than brute strength. It had no shields capable of withstanding a direct assault from Drakkar warships, but it had what humans relied on most: cunning. Elias had spent weeks studying Drakkar patterns, learning their habits, and creating plans that relied on improvisation rather than force. He knew that victory would come from creativity, quick thinking, and sheer nerve. As they prepared for launch, Elias allowed himself a moment to think about the Queen. Queen Seraphine was said to be wise, brave, and unyielding, a leader who inspired loyalty from her people. He did not know her personally, but he felt an immediate respect for someone who had survived being captured by the Drakkar Empire. If she could endure that, she was more than just a figurehead. She was a symbol of hope, and symbols, Elias knew, could change the course of a war. The countdown began, and the engines hummed to life. The Starlance detached from the station with quiet precision, slipping into the darkness between stars. Elias kept his eyes on the path ahead, navigating asteroid fields and debris clouds that would have stopped larger ships in their tracks. Every twist and turn was a test of human skill, a reminder that survival often depended on daring and intelligence rather than raw power. Hours passed in tense silence. The crew worked in harmony, each action precise, each calculation deliberate. They avoided Drakkar patrols, ducked through shadows in space, and communicated only in encrypted bursts to avoid detection. The vast emptiness outside seemed alive with danger, yet within the Starlance, humanity thrived. They were small, yes, but every decision, every maneuver was proof of human ingenuity. Finally, they approached the Veil Fortress. It loomed like a dark sentinel, a massive structure orbiting a dead planet. Its surface was lined with weapons and sensors, its edges pulsing with alien energy. The fortress was alive, aware, and hostile. Elias studied it carefully. Every entrance, every patrol route, every energy surge could be a trap. Yet he also saw patterns. He saw weaknesses that only a human mind, adaptable and unpredictable, could exploit. "Prepare for approach," he said. "We enter at 20,000 kilometers. Follow my lead and remember, humans survive by thinking differently. Watch each other's backs and trust your instincts." This was what humans did. They faced danger and found a way through it. They launched the first diversion, a decoy drone that mimicked the signature of a small mining vessel. The fortress sensors reacted instantly, tracking the drone and diverting some of their patrols. Meanwhile, the Starlants slipped through the gaps, guided by Mara's precise calculations. One wrong move could mean destruction, but humans thrived in risk. Inside the fortress, the air was thick with tension, even aboard the ship. Lyra intercepted alien communications, translating codes that no human had ever deciphered before. Each message revealed more about the fortress's internal layout, the routines of its guards, and the location of the Queen. Elias felt a mix of awe and pride. Here was humanity at its finest, small, clever, and undaunted by forces much larger than themselves. Hours passed like minutes. The team navigated corridors, evaded sensors, and neutralized traps with nothing but their skill and wits. When they finally reached the chamber where the Queen was held, Elia's heart quickened. She was there, chained to a wall with alien devices suppressing her energy and movement. She looked at him with calm, piercing eyes. There was no fear, only quiet resolve. "You are late," she said, her voice steady despite her restraints. There was no softness in her tone, no reliance on him for rescue. It was a statement of fact. Elias felt a surge of respect. Here was a leader, not a damsel in distress. "Better late than never," he replied, carefully approaching her. "We're getting you out." Piece by piece, the devices deactivated under their combined efforts. Finally, the Queen was free. She stretched slightly, testing her limbs, then met Elia's gaze. There was a spark of recognition, not of gratitude, but of respect. Before they could celebrate, alarms blared through the fortress. They had been detected. The Drakkar Empire would not let a human ship leave with their prisoner. Elias did not flinch. He issued orders calmly, directing the crew through the safest paths they had identified. Humans had never faced impossible odds and surrendered. They survived by being clever, quick, and relentless. The fortress erupted with energy bursts as alien forces engaged them. The team fought back not with brute force, but with tactics that exploited their environment, traps, and alien assumptions. The Drakkar soldiers expected a conventional fight, but humans had never been conventional. Each move, each decision was proof of human resilience and intelligence. Finally, they reached the Starlants, the Queen now aboard. Elias piloted the ship with precision, weaving through laser fire and energy fields. Behind them, the fortress grew smaller, but the danger was far from over. The journey back would be just as perilous, with the Drakkar fleet in pursuit. Yet Elias felt no fear. Humanity had faced greater challenges, and they had always found a way. The Queen watched him silently, observing his decisions, his calm under pressure, and the teamwork of his crew. Elias realized that the bond forming between them was not immediate, not shallow. It was built on trust, respect, and shared courage. She had been a captive, but now she was an ally. And allies, especially human ones, could change the course of entire wars. As the Starlants slipped into the darkness of the nebula, Elias looked back at the fortress one last time. The mission was only beginning. The real journey had yet to start, and the galaxy would soon witness what humans could do when they refused to give up. Humans were small in number, fragile in body, but they were unstoppable in spirit. And in that moment, Elias knew that no matter what awaited them in the void, humanity would rise. Because humans never surrendered. Humans never quit. And sometimes the smallest star could shine brighter than a galaxy of enemies. The Starlants slipped quietly through the dark expanse of space, the shadows of distant asteroids blending with the black void. Commander Elias Kale's hands rested lightly on the controls, his mind running through every possible contingency. Behind him, Queen Seraphine sat in the small observation area of the ship, her posture straight, her eyes fixed on the stars. She did not speak much, and when she did, her words were measured and precise. Elias found it curious. There was no fear, no false politeness, only the presence of a mind trained to endure hardship. He respected that more than he could say. The ship's crew was tense but efficient. Lieutenant Mara Jins worked quickly at the engineering console, checking the power flow and rerouting energy to shields when necessary. Sergeant Rawl stood near the exit hatch, weapon ready, alert for any sudden threat. Lyra's fingers danced over the communications panel, scanning for Drakkar signals and attempting to jam any attempts to track their ship. It was a delicate balance. One miscalculation could spell disaster. Elias finally broke the silence. "We're not out of danger yet," he said, his voice calm but firm. "The Drakkar Empire will pursue us relentlessly. Their fleet is faster, stronger, and better armed. But humans are clever. They never take the obvious path and they never give up. We'll use that to our advantage." Her voice was even, but Elias detected a faint hint of curiosity beneath the calm. "Your people rely on ingenuity over strength. That is unusual for a species so small. And we survive because we trust each other. Commander, Drakkar fleet detected on sensors. They're converging on our position from multiple vectors. Estimated interception in 30 minutes. They were faster than his ship, and there was no way to outrun them in a straight line. He knew this would be their first real test. "Options?" he asked. Mara spoke quickly. "We can use the asteroid field nearby. It's dense enough to break sensor locks and limit their maneuvering. We'll have a chance to slip past if we time it right. Any miscalculation and we'll be crushed. Are we sure it's worth the risk?" Every movement was precise, every calculation deliberate. Humans had survived countless impossible situations, but this was perhaps the most dangerous. Elias felt the familiar adrenaline coursing through his veins, not fear but clarity. Every decision mattered, every second counted. As the Starlets approached the asteroid field, the Drakkar fleet closed in rapidly. Lasers streaked across space, harmlessly bouncing off small rocks, but the human crew felt the pressure. Elias guided the ship with unmatched skill, weaving between asteroids, sometimes at angles that seemed impossible. Every narrow pass was a test of timing, reflexes, and nerve. Behind him, Seraphine leaned slightly forward, her eyes narrowing. She observed the maneuvers with keen interest, noting the crew's coordination and Elia's decision-making. "Humans are daring," she said softly. "Not reckless, but daring. They understand risk in a way that is admirable." The Drakkar ships struggled to follow, their larger frames unable to navigate the dense asteroid field with the same precision. One of the pursuing ships collided with an asteroid, exploding in a bright burst that illuminated the darkness for a brief moment. The crew felt a collective shiver of relief. It was a small victory, but a human victory nonetheless. Hours passed as they navigated the treacherous field, the Drakkar fleet gradually falling behind. The Queen remained silent for the most part, but she observed everything. Elias noticed how her gaze lingered on Mara as she rerouted energy, on Rawl as he calculated escape paths, and on Lyra as she intercepted alien communications. She was studying humans, understanding them, learning them. Finally, the Starlets emerged from the asteroid field into open space. The fleet was no longer immediately threatening, but Elias knew they would not give up. The Drakkar Empire rarely let a target escape, especially a queen. He allowed the crew a brief moment to relax, knowing it would be short-lived. Seraphine spoke again, her voice calm but deliberate. "Your people, you risk everything to save others. That is rare. It is commendable. You accept it and you still act." That, he thought, was the true measure of leadership, and it was what humans understood better than most. Their course took them near a neutral planet, one not aligned with the Drakkar Empire or the human colonies. As they approached, a warning came through Lyra's console. "Commander, Drakkar forces are attacking the planet. Civilians are in danger." They could continue their escape and ensure the Queen's safety, but thousands of innocent lives were at risk. He glanced at Seraphine. "We don't have to do this," he said quietly. The Queen's eyes were steady. "If your people save the Queen but let innocents die, how noble is your victory? Your actions define you, not your words." She understood principle, courage, and the human moral compass. "You are right," he said. "Prepare to change course, we help them." Humans were outnumbered, and the ships were designed to overpower any conventional defense. Yet Elias did not falter. He relied on ingenuity. Mara set up electromagnetic traps using pieces of debris and old satellites. Rawl coordinated evasive maneuvers that drew the Drakkar ships into narrow corridors of orbit, limiting their movement. Lyra jammed communications, forcing the aliens to act blindly. Every move was calculated, every risk deliberate. Humans had faced impossible odds countless times, and they thrived on challenges like this. The battle was intense but brief. Drakkar ships collided, their weapons misfired, and several were disabled by human traps. The planet's civilians were saved, though the human crew sustained minor damage. Elias allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. They had succeeded without the loss of life, a human victory earned through courage, creativity, and moral clarity. The queen observed silently throughout, noting every decision, every risk, and every sacrifice. She had expected humans to fight, perhaps even to escape, but she had not expected this. Humans fighting not for glory, not for power, but because it was the right thing to do. It left an impression on her that no words could express. After the battle, the Starlance resumed its course. The Drakkar fleet had retreated temporarily, likely regrouping for another attempt. Ilias knew the danger was far from over, but he also knew that the bond with the queen had changed. Respect had turned into trust. Trust, he realized, was the first step toward true partnership. Seraphine finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "Your people, they are remarkable. I have observed many species in my lifetime, and I have never seen courage and morality so tightly bound. You are exceptional." The journey ahead would be dangerous, but Ilias did not doubt them. They were humans, and humans never surrendered. They adapted, they survived, and they protected those who could not protect themselves. The queen had witnessed their first act of heroism, but many more would follow. And through it all, she would learn what humans truly stood for: courage, ingenuity, and the unwavering refusal to give up. As the Starlance disappeared into the distance, the stars stretching endlessly before them, Ilias felt a quiet determination settle over him. The Drakkar Empire would come for them again, and the challenges would grow greater. But he also knew this. With courage, skill, and a steadfast heart, humans could face anything, and he would prove it not just to the Queen, but to the galaxy itself. For now, the first step had been taken. Humanity had faced the impossible and prevailed. And as Queen Seraphine watched the stars with him, Ilias realized that they had not only survived, they had earned trust, respect, and perhaps the beginning of a bond that could change the fate of worlds. The Starlance glided through space, its sleek hull reflecting the faint light of distant stars. Commander Ilias Kale sat at the helm, eyes scanning the instruments and the endless void beyond the cockpit window. The crew was exhausted, but their determination remained unbroken. Hours of navigating the asteroid field and saving the neutral planet had left them tense and alert. Every member of the team carried the weight of the mission, knowing that the Drakkar Empire would not let Queen Seraphine go without a relentless pursuit. The Queen herself remained calm, though her eyes betrayed careful observation. She had spent time studying the human crew, analyzing their decisions, and weighing their actions. Unlike many species she had encountered, humans acted not out of fear or greed, but out of choice. They weighed risks, considered consequences, and then acted decisively. That quality alone set them apart in her eyes. Ilias broke the silence. "We have done well so far, but this is only the beginning. The Drakkar fleet may retreat for now, but they will adapt. They will come again. We need to stay ready. Repairs won't help if they catch up to us before you finish. We need a plan for when they return. They're probably using some kind of cloaking or interference. I'll do my best, Commander, but they're hiding well." One mistake could cost lives, not only their own, but those of entire star systems. Humans had always been underdogs, and yet they thrived in such conditions. After several hours, the Queen spoke for the first time since the diversion around the planet. "Your people, they take great risks, yet they act with precision. I have seen many species rush into danger without thought. Humans, you plan, you calculate, you adapt. That is rare." Ilias could sense that she was beginning to understand the essence of humanity, not just their skill, but their spirit. Hours later, as the Starlance cruised through a quiet stretch of space, an alert sounded. Lyra's voice was tense. "Commander, I'm detecting Drakkar ships approaching from multiple directions. They've coordinated an ambush. Estimated interception in less than an hour." Humans had survived countless conflicts, and their greatest strength lay not in sheer force, but in unity and quick thinking. As the Drakkar ships appeared on the sensors, Ilias studied the formation. There were 5 in total, sleek, heavily armed, and moving with precision. On a normal day, they would have been unstoppable. Yet humans had something the Drakkar did not: unpredictability and courage. "Take us into the asteroid belt ahead," Ilias ordered. "We'll use the environment to our advantage. They'll struggle to maneuver as we slip through." The remaining 4 adjusted their approach, cautious but persistent. Inside the ship, tension was high. Seraphine observed every move, noting the crew's coordination. Ilias noticed her attention. "You're studying us," he said quietly. "I am learning," she replied. "To understand a species is to understand their strengths and weaknesses. I must know if humanity is capable of more than bravery." The Drakkar ships, powerful as they were, could not match the human combination of ingenuity and adaptability. Finally, the Starlants emerged from the asteroid belt into open space. The Drakkar ships had suffered minor damage and delays, but they were far from defeated. Ilias knew the next encounter would be even more dangerous. As the crew caught their breath, a new alert came through. Lyra's voice was hesitant. "Commander, another distress signal. It's faint, but coming from a nearby planet. Civilians under attack by Drakkar forces. If you prioritize only the Queen, what does it say about your people?" Lyra, monitor communications for Drakkar activity. Mara deployed drones equipped with electromagnetic disruptors, creating traps that interfered with the Drakkar weapon systems. Rahl guided the ship into positions that forced the enemy into narrow corridors, limiting their maneuverability. Lyra jammed communications, making it difficult for the Drakkar forces to coordinate. The Queen observed silently, noting each human decision. She realized that humans did not merely react. They calculated, adapted, and used every advantage, no matter how small. Their bravery was impressive, but their intelligence and moral compass were equally so. The battle was fierce but brief. Several Drakkar ships were disabled or forced to retreat. Civilians were saved, and the Starlants sustained minor damage, none critical. Ilias allowed himself a brief moment of relief. Humanity had prevailed not through superior firepower, but through courage, ingenuity, and teamwork. After the battle, the crew gathered to assess the damage and repair systems. The Queen remained standing, observing the human efficiency. Ilias approached her. "We could have left them. We could have focused only on your safety. But that is not who we are. Not because we are the strongest, but because we do what is right, even when it is difficult." The Starlants continued its journey, the stars stretching endlessly ahead. Ilias knew that the Drakkar Empire would regroup, that new challenges would arise, and that the path ahead would be dangerous. But he also knew that humans, small in number but vast in spirit, could face anything. Seraphine remained quiet for a long time, then spoke, her voice measured. "Your people, they are remarkable. I have observed many civilizations, but humans, you combine courage, intelligence, and morality in ways I have rarely seen. It is inspiring." Ilias realized that trust had begun to form, not instant, not blind, but built through action, observation, and shared purpose. She had seen humans at their best, and she understood the true measure of their strength. Hours turned into days as the Starlants traveled through hostile space. The crew worked tirelessly, repairing damage, monitoring for threats, and planning the next steps. Ilias remained vigilant, knowing that the Drakkar Empire would not give up, that the Queen's safety depended on their continued ingenuity and courage. During a quiet moment, he spoke to her again. "We have faced danger and survived, not because we are fearless, but because we act with purpose. Humanity thrives in adversity. That is what makes us strong." Humans had faced impossible odds countless times and had always found a way. They survived because they were adaptable, intelligent, and unyielding. And now, the Queen had seen it for herself. The Starlants continued its journey, the stars stretching endlessly ahead. New challenges awaited, and the Drakkar Empire would strike again. But Ilias knew this. Humanity would face every danger with courage, ingenuity, and an unshakable moral compass. They were small, but they were mighty. They were human, and that was enough to change the fate of worlds. The Starlants moved steadily through deep space, its engines leaving a faint trail of light against the dark canvas of stars. Commander Ilias Kale sat at the helm, eyes sharp, every sense alert. The past days had tested the crew in ways no human had ever imagined. They had navigated asteroid fields, outsmarted alien forces, and saved entire worlds. Yet Ilias knew the most dangerous challenge was still ahead. The Drakkar Empire had regrouped, and now they were coming for them with full force. The Queen remained quietly observing the crew. Queen Seraphine had already seen humans at their best, and she understood their strength. But now she would see them tested at their limits. The bonds she had begun to form with Ilias and the crew were solidifying, based not on convenience or obligation, but on shared courage and mutual respect. She had expected fear or recklessness, but she saw calm precision, deliberate action, and unwavering bravery. Ilias turned to the crew, his voice steady but commanding. "The Drakkar fleet is coordinating a direct attack. There is no more room for evasion. We face them head-on. Remember, humans survive not because we are stronger, but because we are smarter, faster, and more adaptable. Trust each other and trust your instincts. We need precision, speed, and timing." Mara, prepare the ship for high-risk maneuvers. Rawl, keep us in motion. Lyra, focus on jamming their sensors. Timing will be everything. We thrive when the odds seem impossible because we refuse to be predictable. That is why we survive. The first wave of Drakkar fighters approached. They moved with deadly precision, lasers cutting through the void. Elias guided the Starlants through a series of sharp maneuvers, weaving between asteroids and debris to avoid direct fire. The fighters struggled to follow, their larger frames unable to match the humans' agility. Mara deployed electromagnetic traps from the ship's vents, creating bursts of interference that disabled several enemy ships. Rawl guided the Starlants in complex patterns, forcing the Drakkar into collisions with each other or misaligned shots. Lyra jammed communications, causing chaos within the enemy ranks. Queen Seraphine watched, impressed by the crew's coordination. Humans fought not just with weapons, but with ingenuity. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. She realized that Elias and his crew embodied the very essence of human resilience, creativity, courage, and the refusal to surrender. The Drakkar capital ships began their assault, firing energy beams that could easily destroy the Starlants if they connected. Elias studied the pattern of their weapons and noticed a subtle lag in their targeting system. He relayed instructions to the crew, guiding the ship through a series of unpredictable maneuvers that forced the enemy to overcorrect. Several beams missed entirely, striking empty space or asteroids instead. "Now!" Elias shouted. Mara activated the ship's limited but precise weapons system, targeting the command vessel. A series of calculated strikes hit the enemy's power nodes, disrupting their shields and communications. The Drakkar fleet faltered, confusion spreading through their ranks. Seraphine allowed herself a faint smile. Humans are relentless. You turn disadvantages into strengths. Their only chance was to exploit their agility, the terrain of the nearby asteroid field, and the humans' ability to anticipate and adapt. He gave orders calmly and decisively. "Take us toward the asteroids. Use the debris as cover. We will split their formation and then strike again at the command ship. Mara, prepare more traps. Rawl, keep them chasing us." Lyra, disrupt their targeting systems continuously. The Queen observed with growing admiration. Elias' decisions were not reckless. They were calculated risks taken with full awareness of consequences. Humans thrived in situations where others might falter. Their ingenuity, courage, and sense of morality combined into a force more powerful than brute strength. As they reached the heart of the asteroid field, Elias identified the command vessel. Its shields were still active but weakened from the earlier strikes. "This is our moment," he said. "Prepare for a direct hit. We disable their leadership and the rest will scatter." The command vessel shuddered as its systems began failing. Fighters became disoriented and the remaining capital ships hesitated, unsure of how to respond. Seraphine's eyes shone with respect. "Humans are not the strongest, but you are cunning, adaptable, and fearless. That is why you survive where others would fail." The Drakkar fleet, though vast and powerful, was forced to retreat as their command vessel was incapacitated. Humanity had won, not through raw firepower, but through skill, teamwork, and ingenuity. After the battle, the Starlants emerged from the asteroid field into open space. The stars stretched endlessly around them, quiet and still after the chaos of combat. The crew breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that they had survived against overwhelming odds. Queen Seraphine approached Elias, her expression calm but filled with quiet admiration. "You and your people, you have proven more than bravery. You have shown strategy, foresight, and moral strength. I am impressed. You have seen what humans can do when they refuse to give up. It is not just courage, it is ingenuity, teamwork, and the will to survive while protecting others. I see now why humans can lead where others fail." But Elias knew that humans, though small in number, had the spirit to face any challenge. Their courage and ingenuity had allowed them to overcome impossible odds, and that same spirit would guide them through the dangers yet to come. Seraphine remained quietly at his side, her presence no longer formal, but one of partnership and respect. The bond between human and queen had deepened, built not on hierarchy, but on shared experience, trust, and admiration. She had chosen to stay not as a captive or out of obligation, but because she saw humanity at its finest and understood the value of standing beside those who embody courage and principle. Elias glanced at the stars ahead. The galaxy was vast, dangerous, and full of uncertainty. Yet for the first time, he felt a quiet confidence that humans, though small and often underestimated, could shape the fate of worlds. Through courage, ingenuity, and moral strength, they could face any challenge, overcome any enemy, and inspire others to rise alongside them. As the Starlets moved forward, the crew prepared for the next stage of their journey. Repairs were underway, strategies were reviewed, and every member remained vigilant. But there was a new sense of determination, an understanding that humans were capable of greatness, not just in battle, but in leadership, in choice, and in action. Queen Seraphine finally spoke, her voice calm but filled with conviction. I have witnessed your people rise against impossible odds, protect the defenseless, and act with both courage and conscience. I have made my decision. I will remain by your side, not as a queen in chains, but as an ally, a partner, and a witness to the greatness of humanity. Humanity had faced impossible challenges before and had always prevailed. Now, with the queen choosing to stand beside them, he realized that their journey was no longer just about survival. It was about shaping the future of the galaxy, proving that humans, though small, were capable of extraordinary deeds. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, silent and bright. The Starlets sailed through the void, carrying humans whose courage, ingenuity, and moral strength would shine in the darkness. Ilias knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, humanity would endure, adapt, and triumph. They had proven it time and again. And now, with Queen Seraphine by their side, they would face the future together, ready for whatever the galaxy dared to throw at them. The Starlets drifted quietly through the dark expanse of space, but silence did not mean safety. Commander Ilias Kale stood at the helm, his hands resting lightly on the controls, his eyes scanning the infinite stars ahead. Behind him, the hum of the ship and the low chatter of the crew created a rhythm of life in the void. Humanity had survived countless challenges, but the final leg of this journey was more than survival. It was the test of trust, leadership, and moral strength. Queen Seraphine sat quietly in the observation area, her gaze fixed on the stars. She had chosen to stay beside the humans, not because of obligation or circumstance, but because she recognized the spirit of their species. In Ilias and his crew, she had seen courage, ingenuity, and an unwavering sense of morality. These were traits that no empire, no matter how powerful, could conquer. Ilias knew the Drakkar Empire was not defeated, only delayed. Their forces had retreated after the asteroid field battle, but they would regroup. The Queen's people relied on him now, and humans had proven that they were not merely survivors. They were leaders capable of shaping the fate of worlds. He turned to the crew. We have faced the impossible and prevailed, but our mission is not complete. The Drakkar fleet will return. We must prepare, not only to protect the Queen, but to show the galaxy what humans are capable of. We'll show them that humans don't back down. We outthink them, we outmaneuver them, and we protect what matters. That is trust, and we will honor it. Humans were often underestimated, but their greatest advantage lay not in numbers or technology, but in ingenuity and courage. Finally, the Drakkar fleet appeared on the sensors, a massive formation of capital ships and fighters, moving with precision and intent. This was the final test. Ilias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility, but also the strength of humanity's spirit. Positions, he ordered. We know their patterns, we will exploit their assumptions, and we will fight with brains as well as courage. Mara, Rawl, Lyra, stick to your tasks. We survive because we act as one. Mara's engineering brilliance allowed the ship to use its limited weapons in unexpected ways, striking at weak points in the Drakkar fleet. Rawl's tactical calculations guided the ship's movement, predicting enemy maneuvers and countering them before the Drakkar realized the plan. Lyra's interference caused chaos among the alien communications, disrupting coordination. Queen Seraphine watched intently, noting every human decision. She understood now that humanity's strength was not in raw power, but in creativity, collaboration, and moral courage. They fought not because they had to, but because they chose to protect, to act, and to survive. The battle raged across the void, each moment a test of skill, nerve, and determination. The Drakkar Empire's forces were vast, but humans were unpredictable. Ilias guided the Starlets in daring maneuvers, exploiting gaps in the enemy formation. Mara deployed improvised energy traps, while Rawl calculated every evasive pattern with near-perfect precision. Lyra's jamming efforts caused the alien fleet to falter, giving humans the advantage despite overwhelming odds. As the battle reached its climax, Ilias identified the central command ship. Its destruction would scatter the remaining forces, ending the immediate threat. He gave the order. Prepare for the decisive strike, all systems focused. This is humanity's moment. Mara calibrated the weapons, Raul maneuvered the ship into the perfect firing arc, and Lyra maintained disruption of enemy sensors. The Starlance struck with precision, hitting the command vessel's core. A massive explosion rippled through the Drakkar fleet, scattering their ships in disarray. Seraphine's eyes widened in admiration. Your people, they are extraordinary. I have seen courage, ingenuity, and moral strength combined in ways I have never witnessed. They are leaders, not just survivors. The Starlance floated through the aftermath of battle, damaged but intact. The crew allowed themselves a moment to breathe, the tension slowly easing. Seraphine approached Elias once more. Commander, I have made my choice. I will remain beside you not as a captive, but as a partner. Humanity has proven its worth, its courage, and its honor. I trust you, and I wish to stand with you in the challenges ahead. We will face whatever comes next together, not as leader and subject, but as allies and partners. You are capable of greatness, not just in battle, but in leadership, in choice, and in action. These were humans at their best, courageous, clever, and unwavering in the face of danger. As the Starlance traveled toward Allied space, Elias reflected on the journey. They had faced the Drakkar Empire, navigated deadly asteroid fields, and saved entire worlds. They had proven that humanity's strength lay not in numbers or technology, but in courage, ingenuity, and moral clarity. The Queen had seen this firsthand and had chosen to stand beside them, recognizing the human spirit as something rare and powerful. Hours later, the Starlance emerged near a human colony, safe for the first time in days. The stars stretched endlessly around them, silent witnesses to their journey. Elias guided the ship into orbit, ensuring that repairs could begin and that the crew could rest. The Queen stood beside him, her presence a reminder of the trust and partnership that had been earned through shared trials. Elias finally allowed himself a moment of reflection. Humanity had faced impossible odds, and yet they had prevailed. They had fought not for glory, not for recognition, but because it was the right thing to do. That was the essence of human strength, and it had been recognized by a queen from another world. Seraphine spoke quietly, breaking the reflective silence. I have seen your people rise against overwhelming odds, protect the defenseless, and act with both courage and conscience. I have seen leadership not imposed, but earned through action. I will remain with you, Commander, not as a captive, but as an ally in building a better future. The galaxy will remember this day, and it will remember humanity's courage. Humans had proven themselves not through brute strength, but through ingenuity, bravery, and moral fortitude. Elias stood at the helm, looking out at the stars. The journey had tested them, shaped them, and revealed the true measure of humanity. Small in number but mighty in spirit, humans could face any challenge, overcome any enemy, and inspire allies across the galaxy. The Queen stood beside him, her eyes reflecting both admiration and trust. She had chosen to remain with humans not for comfort, not for status, but because she had witnessed the extraordinary qualities that defined their species. Together, they would build alliances, defend the defenseless, and face the galaxy as equals and partners. As the Starlance prepared to land, Elias felt a profound sense of hope. Humanity had survived the impossible and emerged victorious, proving once again that courage, ingenuity, and conscience were mightier than brute force. The Queen's choice to stay beside them was a testament to their strength, their moral clarity, and the power of humanity itself. The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent witnesses to the journey and the triumphs achieved. The Starlance descended toward the colony, carrying humans whose courage, ingenuity, and moral strength had shone brightly in the darkness of the galaxy. Elias knew that the challenges ahead would be many, but humanity was ready. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would do so again, undaunted, unyielding, and united. For the first time in days, the crew allowed themselves to relax. They had fought, they had survived, and they had proven the true spirit of humanity. Queen Seraphine remained beside them, not as a captive or a ruler, but as a partner and witness to human greatness. Together, they would face the future, ready for anything the galaxy could throw at them. And as the Starlance landed, its hull glinting in the light of the colony below, Elias understood that this was more than a victory. It was proof that humanity, small but mighty in spirit, could shine brightly even in the darkest reaches of space.